I'm taking 2 courses this year. One's my friend David Pearson, one of my favorite people there, the British fellow. And I was just looking through it. And the course I had with him before was provenance, and I find that it's a signed copy. It's not a big deal. A lot of people bring their textbook and have the professor sign it. But I've also got the books for the other ones, and he's come out with a new version of this book, which this is the original. He's got a revised version, and the new one's $85 at Oak Knoll. So I don't know if I'm going to do that. But he's got a new book here, English Bookbinding Styles, because this course I'm taking is on English bookbinding from the 14th to the 17th century. So I've got this to bring with me. And then I had some other books, but I had a funny thing happen to me. Well, I was perusing. If you guys ever go to the Rare Book School website, you'll see there's a biography of every professor, a brief outline of the course, and over on the right, there's usually a suggested reading section. And I tried an experiment. I was looking at a course I was interested in taking, and there is a book put out by the Folger Museum. It's Shakespeare. That's the Shakespeare Museum, and it's apparently one of the professors had it in his list of book, required reading or recommended reading. And the reason it was recommended reading was the book was 200. There's 2 versions of it, a hardback and a paperback, and they're between 200. And there's a really nice case version that goes as high as $400 on AIM. It was apparently, yeah. And I was searching around, just kind of seeing what else I could do. It's killing a little time. And I have found one. I won't say where I found it because I'm killing the mother goose, but we'll know what next week, because I've bought one for considerably less money than that, which I should have. And we obviously don't know whether or not I've got a piece of junk coming in the mail, but it has been shipped to me. So I'm going to discuss that next week and hopefully show my copy of the Shakespeare or the Folger Museum's exhibit. It's a catalog, but the catalog has been expanded into a book and then into a limited edition book. So we will see about that. I have something for that I don't really know what to do with here. I don't know. We may need Lindsay's legal advice. While I was up yesterday with one of my other clients, somebody handed me an envelope, and Lindsay, as you can see here, it says Edie on it. Oh. And it is sealed. And I don't know, Lindsay, should we open this and show it to her? Maybe we should wait till after her section. I want some legal advice on this. And then we should
surprises are always best when fresh, for one thing. Okay. And the other thing is, to be perfectly boring about it, I think you have been entrusted with a bailment, an Anglo-Saxon term for something that one party has entrusted to a second to deliver to a third. And given that the first party and you have concluded that part of the transaction, and you and the third party are together, now seems a perfect time to discharge your duty.
Well, I'm about to do that with the approval of the producer, so Lindsay and I don't get fired. Can I?
Absolutely. You have the permission to proceed.
Swami. Oh, that's Johnny Carson. Sorry. It's for Edie, coming from the Martin County Museum. And it says, first I'll read the little note. That's the other thing that's filling up. You told me if I found any small books to send your way. Here's a token to you and Steve for your help and support. Mary Olson. So you are now the proud possessor of this. Can you see it? Yes, you can.
Wow. I can see it. It looks lovely. Open up the cover.
Okay, it's called Welton's Language of Flowers, and it's London, and I haven't opened it yet, so I don't know if there's any pictures in here.
Doesn't look like it.
No, it appears to be. Actually, you know what it is? It's poetry. The faces of the maidens seem to resemble their own flower gardens. There was a snowdrop so delicate and retiring, the primrose looking boldly up in its innocent, the daisy only plain because it grows so commonly. It goes on and on. It's a poetry book. There are some interesting emblems and their flowers, such as smiles, a daily rose, or a crocus. Precaution, a goldenrod. Remorse, a bramble. Actually, Lindsay should look at this for what he's painting.
Well, that was, that was actually it looks like a sort of lexicon of the Victorian age, because they had an obsessive passion with assigning meanings to flowers.
There are 20 pages of them here.
You could actually, if you knew that language, you could construct and interpret a garden as if it were a book. There was actually a BBC series called Rosemary and Thyme some years ago, about two women, one a policeman's wife and the other a botanist, and they restored estate gardens. And in one episode, they were restoring a water feature, a cascade that had been dry for decades. And because they understood the language of flowers, they began picking up the message in the plantings, which ended up unearthing a murder 2 generations before.
That's exactly the day. There's 20 pages of exactly the dictionary right here.
That is a real prize. It is a glimpse into how the Victorians of means amused themselves in those long summer afternoons when they had no cell phones to look at.
What would you say the measurements are?
I can do better than that. Watch this. The measurements are 3 1/2 inches by 2 1/4.
Oh, isn't that wonderful of them? Oh, so when are you going to send it to me, sir?
I missed the post office today, and tomorrow's Sunday, so we'll get it out Monday.
Thank you. And there are names and addresses with it, or is it there on the note?
Well, it's Mary, who Steve and I both know, Mary Olson, who's the director up there, or the head of the volunteers, and it was pretty much from her individually with the thanks of the institution. So, but it's signed from her. I've got all that information for you. I'll try and remember it.
Yes, so I can send her a thank you note. I certainly want to. Thank you in advance, Mary, if you're watching.
Yeah, so I thought we would at least say that that's from the Martin County volunteers for the Martin County Library, and so Steve and I Steve's given some lectures, and Edie, I think you were up there, for that Steve's lecture, and I was, and so I maintain a relationship.
I wave from the back. Yeah, I always say, "Here I am."
I used to live up there, so I occasionally get up there to see my friends, and the library is it's a very active library there. They have a large support group. So, at any rate, Alan, what's up? Do we have a bad joke about?
That's wonderful. That is terrific. Welcome to the Rare Book Cafe. We are back here on May the 4th, be with you, 19. And we have just finished the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair last weekend, so it is 358 days until the next Florida Antiquarian Book Fair.
Wow.
But who's counting, 51
weeks. 51 weeks. And for those who are counting, that's 8,590 until the Aquarian Book Fair opens. So I want to suggest to you to think about how you're going to use those 8,500 hours between now and the next book fair. Some of our favorite dealers who were at the book fair this year will be using those hours very wise to other book fairs, and they will be trading in books, and they will be coming across wonderful treasures that we have not seen before. But I want to suggest to those who are in our viewing audience to think about how you're going to use those 8,592 hours, 51 weeks, 358 days until the next Florida Antiquarian Book Fair.
I
want to welcome you to
what are the dates
book fair.
Of the next one, Alan?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. The dates for the next Florida Antiquarian Book Fair are April 24th through the 26th, 2020. 2020. Now let that sink in. 2020. Do you realize that 100 years ago, when we get to that, 100 years ago will have begun the jazz era, the 20s. About 104 years ago would be when the venue for the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, the Coliseum in St. Petersburg, was built. So it's an exciting thing. I want to welcome some of our viewers. Dennis in snowy Calgary. We are so sorry, Dennis, that you are dealing with snowy Calgary
in May.
In May, yes, you're right. We have beautiful sunny skies here in St. Petersburg, and it is just a gorgeous day out. In fact, it raises the question of why we're sitting in here. Why are we not out soaking up the sun and enjoying the out of doors, which I will be doing as soon as this program is over. I will be doing that as well. So what my companions today, we have no guests today, but my companions today are Thorne Donnelly of Liberty Books in Jupiter, Florida, and Edie Eisenstein, the Queen of Miniature Books in Miami Beach, Florida, and Lindsay Thompson of Henry Bemis Books in Chester, South Carolina. A town so small.
Yeah.
We're sorry to hear this news, Lindsay, that in Chester this week they had to cancel the senior prom. Also, they had to cancel the graduation and the Lions Club banquet because the shellac is still drying on the floor of the gym at the high school.
Well, while you take a break to go look for some better writers, I'll also mention that today is the second and last day of Hog on the Hill, our big barbecue festival up on high hill where Chester downtown sits actually on top of a high hill, and the town radiates down from it. And so you can just look for the old Opera House, which is now City Hall, and you can get you some good Q.
Well, one day event or 2 days?
No, and you, in fact, next year probably we can count on the Florida Antiquarian Book, the Rare Book Cafe being sponsored by the barbecue in Chester, South Carolina. Seems like a reasonable thing. I want to say a shout out to Sharif Afifi, who says hello from Alexandria, and to Henry Holt, who says good afternoon and rainy and damp Cape Cod. And of course, we mentioned Dennis earlier, who is suffering in the snowy throes of Calgary. So thank you all for joining us, and shout out to Stephen Healy, who is in Great Britain and is giving us a quick shout out from there. So I'm confused because I have to push a button here to make.
While you do that, let me just remind my good friend Dennis that no one makes you stay in Calgary. Come on down.
We call them snowbirds in Florida. We even have a name, and there's lots of Canadian license plates. Yeah,
they come in droves in the early spring to Myrtle Beach here in South Carolina. You can see them flying overhead.
So there you have it. You have Dennis. You have an invitation to come on down. and get out of that snow and come enjoy the sunny South. And another shout out to Jane Kahn.
Hi, Jane.
Just says hi. She didn't say how she was, how the weather was in her neck of the woods. But,
she's always multitasking.
From Jacqueline in Rome, New York. Hi, Jacqueline. Appreciate you guys joining us here on the Rare Book Cafe.
Oh, Jacqueline has not been with us. Jacqueline has not been with us for quite a while, so it's nice to see her back again.
For really quite a long time. So thank you for coming back and joining us.
We missed you.
Today we are going to spend some time talking about the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, which has just closed, and we've got a lot of war stories from that time. But to start us off with that, let's get Edie to tell us a little bit about how it went for her.
Well, it was absolutely wonderful. It always is to be able to see everyone. And what we have to do is certainly have Lindsay wind up coming to the book fair next year.
Yeah.
I mean, we really have to. Thorn, it was wonderful. We were in adjoining alcoves as usual. And we had many, many good conversations. It's always a joy to see him and Will and the people that are around us at the book fair. We seem to have our own little clique that comes back every year for our little corner.
Well, we got some new neighbors, though, from Barcelona, Spain. Edie, do you want to tell Donnie about the neighbors to your left from Spain?
Well, it was a couple that came in from Barcelona, Spain. The young lady that was there, she spoke English well. Her husband's English was not as easy for me, but they were very pleasant, they were very nice, and they were very friendly, and they were very glad to be there at the Coliseum. And they met the people from Biblio, and they met a lot of other people, and so it was a joy to see them, and they're gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous books.
I might add that their gorgeous books are just wonderful reproductions of just beautiful pieces that they found all over Europe, and they found some in museums in the United States. They're
I didn't know that.
They are just beautiful reproductions of hand-colored books that actually books from the 16th, 17th century. So they are not only were they wonderfully reproduced, but they come with a separate, basically a coffee table book that explains, it's annotated and explains what it is you're looking at. So I just thought they presented some wonderful treasures, and they also let us know that they are opening an office in Miami. So in your neighborhood.
Very good, very good.
Oh, you know that. Great.
We will welcome them with open arms. And I see now that Danny Ramos has joined us. And one of the things I was going to talk about was his book that he did for me with tea leaves. And Danny, it's good to see you. I have the book. I still have the original envelope with all of your notes, etc. And one of the gentlemen, one of the dealers in St. Pete, asked me if I would spend time and show this book again, which I will do next week, because this week we are dedicating to what was going on with the fair. But Danny, I love, love, love his work. He is such a talented artist. It's wonderful to see. It's great that Shafifa Fifi, who puts up things on bookbinding that are second to none that I've ever seen. So good to see you too, Sharif. And Hank, God bless Hank up in Katuitt. His ankle is healing. And Thorne, you were dancing around at the book fair, so I know that your mishap is totally healed. So
I didn't sit down at all on Saturday. I kept going all day long.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And at the book fair this year, which Alan said we will do next week, Sarah came up with a wonderful, innovative idea for the book fair, and that was to have people going around do a scavenger hunt. And although, as Lindsay said earlier, he's been on scavenger hunts, I have never been on a scavenger hunt at a book fair. And this was just wonderful. And Alan took photos of a lot of what went on. So this will be my thing next week, will be the scavenger hunt together with Alan's photos and Danny Ramos's teabag book, which I treasure. I treasure the friendships that I have made. Arno is now
Danny,
the proud father of a...
for flashing up your comments over and over again. I'm not really doing that. I'm trying to make them go away, but there seems to be a glitch here with Be Live, so they keep popping up. So I just want to let you know that we appreciate you making a comment, and we'll try to make it be quiet.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
All right. Also, Arno now has a new little baby girl, and he and his wife have posted pictures of the three of them. So we all want to congratulate Arno. His collection and his things on the internet are second to none. Next, I am going to talk about not a miniature book that I got, but Tangled Shakespeare, A Midsummer's Night's Dream by Mary Kay Bibi Watson. And it is a wonderful book that Mary Kay gave to us about Tangled Shakespeare. And every page of the book was beautiful, beautiful illustrations and the wonderful, wonderful story of A Midsummer's Night Dream. And she and her friend Dennis were there at the show. It was a pleasure to meet them. It's a pleasure to have an autographed copy of her book. And although I haven't read it yet, I intend to. But my first miniature book story.
Beautifully done. It really is so beautifully done, and with the illustrations. I did have the pleasure of doing an interview during the show with her, but it'll be great to read.
I am looking forward to it, Alan. And my first miniature books acquirement came from Sarah's son. Sarah's son sets up a little bookcase in the front of Mike Slicker's booth, his grandson. And he is so professional at the age of 11 and very knowledgeable. And so when I got there, he said, Edie, I have something for you. And what he had for me was a little Bible in Spanish.
Wow.
And a miniature book called...
Well, it looks like Edie has been... Either the rapture is occurring, folks, or Edie has run afoul of a technical glitch. I can't say definitively about the rapture because some people don't go. But while we're waiting, Alan, there's a couple of things viewers might want to know about.
I got her.
I don't see her.
I can see her.
Well, I'll go out then. My apologies.
You are in the rapture, laddie.
Well, the little book he had was called A Book of Gardens.
Let us know out there, everybody, if you can see.
If you can see me and hear me, write a note, Hank.
Okay.
Hank up
Sophia
in
says
Katuitt.
you're fine. Okay.
Okay. And so, since I was selling my miniature book keychains this year,
oh yes, I forgot
and
that.
he saw them, and he wanted a keychain. So I said, well, how about if we barter? Well, he didn't know about bartering. So I taught him about bartering, that we figured out that the value of the 2 books that he was trying to sell me and the value of the keychain were the same. So we bartered. And his little sister, who was there, who is 6, Sarah Slicker Smith's daughter and Mike Slicker's granddaughter, who is now 6 and the cutest little thing you want to see with a face full of freckles. And she said, I want a keychain too. And Quentin turned around and said, you can't have one because I'm bartering. So I said, oh, yes, she can, because we're going to work out a deal. I am sure that you have something that you know in your bookshelf that I would want, so that I can barter for a keychain with your sister. And he said, that's a good idea. So a few minutes later, there he came back with a new McDuffie 4th reader. Now, for those of you that are my age that remember Dick and Jane and the old McDuffie readers and their illustrations, it was a joy for me to barter with his sister. And I now have 2 McDuffie readers because I bought another one that he had from him, because everybody has to buy a book from him. And the little girl that lives in my building that I am teaching to read, I will be able to use the McDuffie reader, which will be fun for her, and it will be fun for me. I had told the boys that they have to stop me when I've used up my allotted time, because I have so much that I have to say. But
and Edie, you've got one more story, and then we'll save the rest of them for next week, because we do want to visit those next week.
Well, then I will say that the thing I must show is that I got a tintype, a miniature book with tintype photos. There are 46 tintypes in this book. And I got it at the book fair. It is leather bound. It's got a little metal clasp. The front and the rear covers are decorative. And I got it from the old New York bookshop. And there are 46 tintypes in this with the metal clasp. And when Cliff came to show it to me and said, I've got something for you, Edie, and I said, oh, yes, you do. And I knew that when I saw it, it had to be part of my collection because I've never seen one. And so about an hour later, Cliff had my check. And as it turned out, he called me, and Cliff called me because instead of giving him 1 check, I gave him 2 checks. And I would have gone absolutely crazy looking for the check that I was missing, because I do keep check register and I keep them going. So that is a treasure that I will have with the tintypes. And continuing next week, I've got other acquisitions that I did make at the fair, and it was wonderful. So between Danny's teabag books and Alan and I doing the Scavenger Hunt, if there's time next week, I'll show you my other acquisitions. And if not, there's always another Saturday. There's always tomorrow. And
well, Edie, thank you so much for sharing some of the things from the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, and thank you for furthering the efforts at the book fair. And I can't wait till we talk next week about the scavenger hunt. That turned out well, I can tell you, and that it was I think, and I don't think we're trying to brown nose here, but I think that Sarah had a brilliant idea, and it really worked well.
It was.
I had a lot of people doing it.
And everybody that completed the scavenger hunt got a prize.
Yep, they did indeed. And so I'm certain that is something that we're going to want to bring back next year.
Well, as Sarah pointed out, a lot of parents who bring their children to that show, you have a 6 or 8-year-old kid. He's not really interested in old books, since he probably does not even really know how to read that well. But we saw multiple instances of fathers and mothers with their kids making the scavenger hunt for the kids. And the kids were having a great time, really enjoyed the show. And I would think that the parents enjoyed the show more because their kids weren't getting bored or any of that. So I would say Sarah had a double home run for both the adults that were having fun and the adults that brought children. And we see a lot of children there, and some of them really seem to enjoy the books. The parents always, when you have young children, you have to make things to do. And that scavenger hunt had kids running all over the place. Was it one day or 2 days? I don't remember, Alan.
Not only that, but it ran all during the book fair. But not only did it have children doing that, and they're accompanied by their parents, but there were young adults who were participating as well, and they were positively giddy. They were.
It was a fun thing, yeah.
And it was interesting. One of the clues was what you had to do was take your picture, or take a selfie, or take a picture of your companion with something that was in the list of clues. And one of the clues was a star of the Florida Antiquarian, or of the Rare Book Cafe. And so I think you guys got some pictures, didn't you? You had people coming around taking your picture.
The first one I was a little surprised, but I think they kept it going. That's what I was asking, because now I think about it, did last 2 days. Yeah, you're right.
Yes. So they were running around doing that and having a lot of fun. And I just wanted to show you some. I did a very brief selection of photographs.
Oh, how fun!
And this is one of the new. This is a new panorama, that we did just this year. It's interesting to me that it looks an awful lot like all the other panoramas, because the layout of
it's pretty much obvious where you take it from.
Never changes, so turned out well. Sophia says, "Love the scavenger hunt idea." Cascade Booksellers Association. All right. Well, you're welcome to steal the idea. I think we stole the idea from somewhere, and you're welcome to.
It's not an original thought, but it does. They do work.
But anyway, I thought the panorama turned out well. Now, Edie, one of the things that she didn't get to was she has a very good friend who always brings her a wonderful gift. So she was showing this gift, but I want to show, in addition to that, I want to show.
That's who I thought it was. Yeah, the redhead lady. She always makes her own. All those clothes there, as crazy as they look, and I've seen them a lot. She makes her own stuff, right?
She does indeed. She is just multi-talented. This is Meredith the stand-up librarian is what she was billed for a long time. She did comedy. Now she has a job as a librarian at a private library here in St. Petersburg, or in the Tampa Bay area.
Wow, good for her.
But and she's also fallen in love, and these two young ladies are part of her new family, and she brought them, and they were just delightful, and they were all dressed up in just beautiful costumes that she made, and of course they all have a book and library, a book theme to them. So that was very exciting.
Oh, there we have them.
The Edie mentioned earlier the youngest bookseller, Quentin, is now 11. Now, the last time we checked in with Quentin was a couple of years ago, and he was starting out as the youngest bookseller. He has come up in the world. I want to tell you, I was told that this whole setup here, the desk and the quill pen and all of that, was all his idea. He put that all together, and I think it is just absolutely delightful. So
yeah, I want to add to that. Yeah. I asked him what he made last year and what he made this year, and he is consistently running at I think this is his third year. He's consistently running at about a 50% increase in gross sales every year. He's getting much better.
He is doing very, very well. He made selections of his books. He selected what he was going to have, and later on, perhaps next week, we had the opportunity to be on an early morning television program that is done here on the Fox News affiliate here in Tampa Bay area, and we had we were featured. The Florida Antiquarian Book Fair was featured.
Yeah.
Well, as it turned out, one of the stops along the way was Quentin, and I don't know that I can show the video. I know that it doesn't work well, but I have a still picture that we'll have next week that is that shows Quentin during his interview, and then I have some audio that we'll try to play, and it was just delightful. He was asked what his favorite book was, and he had a ready answer, and it turned out to be a limerick book, which when his mother found out that it was a limerick book, she says it gave her a little pause, because you know how limericks go sometimes. So she wasn't so sure about that. Well, now
who's that?
I wanted to bring this young man in.
He's frozen.
In fact, I'm going to bring this young man in right now and let him talk about this. But you know, this is perhaps one of the few times in the history of the world when we have had a picture of Stephen where he is just smiling. Doesn't he look just wonderful? Doesn't he look like he's just having a marvelous time, Stephen?
I took 200 shots for that, if I'm not mistaken, to get that exact moment. There's something about it. All my life I've been on stage. I guess I never learned how to smile when I'm on command. Naturally, it comes out beaming, but on command, I don't know. Wait a minute. Let me think. How do I have to look when I smile? Well, but yeah, it was fun. I was question number 10 on one of the surveys.
You did very well. Denny Ramos says that he was showing photos of the book fair to his colleagues in Barcelona at the Barcelona Artist Book Festival, and he said everyone agreed that it is impressive. Well, thank you, Danny. We appreciate that.
That balcony view from the book fair is majestic, especially at night. You know, when you look down from that balcony with the string lights and the wood floor, and it just has an ambiance like no other book fair that I've seen.
It truly does, and we're just so fortunate to be in a venue, a 1924 era concert hall is what it was. It was a dance venue and concert hall. So I want to move ahead here with, I've got a couple of other pictures that I wanted to show. Now,
that's the gal from Biblio. Yeah.
Let me add one caption.
This is Ashley, who was our guest just before the book fair from Biblio.
Yep.
And she and Alan were there at the book fair and in fact, I have a picture of them as well. This is their table at the book fair, and they indicated they had a marvelous time, and they had a great opportunity to talk to an awful lot of the booksellers, many of whom are already their customers. So Ashley told me that it was wonderful to be able to put a face with a name. They of course are very. They work very hard at the personal touch and knowing their booksellers, knowing who their booksellers are and who they and so being able to many of them they know by phone, but being able to meet them and be in touch with them is wonderful for them.
I introduced Ashley to the people in the booth next to us from Spain with these gorgeous, the facsimile reproductions where you could scrape the gilt off the page. She was able to help them in a unique way because we're an antiquarian book fair, and they know the book business, whether it's new, out of print, facsimile reproductions. And Ashley was able to help them with some suggestions. I presume some of them were biblio related as to how they can do a better job of marketing. So if you're thinking of something that's just don't associate them with just the antiquarian, and she's obviously, come up with some very good game plans for them from what they said at the end.
That's terrific. Okay, so this shot is what is this? Oh, this is the money line. This is the money line. Honey. These were the people who were in line. I have a couple more line shots, but this one was particularly intriguing to me. This meant that the book fair was going well indeed, because there were people waiting in line at the ATM to get cash so they could to make more purchases. Yep. So anyway, I just thought that was
a pleasant sight.
Great shot.
Okay, so I was out in the lobby and I saw this line. Now, people had already gone into the book fair, and so I wondered what could that be. So I walked to the other end of it, and what it was. This was on Sunday, and what it was the Florida Antiquarian, or the Florida Bibliophile Society, has volunteered, and they do this every year on Sunday, to evaluate people's books. And so this line that we were looking at was a line of people waiting with their books to show them to the members of the Bibliophile Society, who would then give them some sage advice on what it was they had and what they might be able to do with it. So so that's very useful service. Yes.
Alan, may I add, I was out in the lobby a couple of times. There were people that we saw their books, and I know as a fact several people on that line, after they got the evaluation, went into the fair based on the information that they saw in the program as to dealers' specialties and who might be an interested buyer, actually sold books as a result of the bibliophiles' appraisals.
Oh, really?
Evaluations, yes.
That's wonderful. I know that this year, I don't recall another time when there have been as many people who were inquiring about selling books, who were really inquiring about the how to find out about their books. And so this is a free service. It's something that the Bibliophile Society does for us here or at the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair, and so it I think was a great benefit all the way around, and I'm glad to hear that some of them were based on the information they got, were able to then find the dealers who would be interested in to sell their books.
It was a target match. One was a book on an old fort in Arkansas, and the ones that I know that sold, and the other was a propaganda pamphlet from 60s stuff. Somebody had brought it in. We saw it. I said, I think this is what it's worth, you know, and so did they. And, you know, she went around and found people that actually came out to the lobby and bought it. So it's a great thing to know that, you know, that happened.
So this is somebody we all know and love. This is Sarah Smith, the manager of the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair. I might add, no relation to me, but I always have to mention that. But Sarah, in this moment, at least, was quite thrilled at what was going on, as you can see from the look on her face. Now, earlier, Edie mentioned her tiny little books on keychains that she had, and she insisted that I take one, and I found one that had my name spelled correctly on it. I'm proud of Edgar, that he spelled Alan right, although it was a surname, I think, of people who took care of him when he was a child. But at any rate, the name was spelled right. So on the back of it was something that, in some way, perhaps is appropriate for some of our experiences at the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair. It said, I became insane with long, I can hardly read it now.
I became insane with long intervals of horrible sanity. It wasn't easy, but I got it.
So there you go. So that is somehow, in a light way, perhaps is something that is indicative of, at times, the craziness going on with Florida Antiquarian Book Fair. But we all had a wonderful time, and we can't wait till 358 days until next year.
I haven't even gotten this stuff back on the shelves yet. Please don't rush me. Come on, please. And by the way, I say this seriously, but with a little bit of Twilight Zone twist. My wife once gave me a keychain, and the keychain saved my life. We'll tell the story another time, but it did deflect a bullet that almost went deeper into my leg if it had not been on my keychain.
Well, all right. Good. Well, Stephen, I know that you had your own personal adventure that was part of the coming to the book fair, and I think we have some pictures here that are part of your narrative. So,
and the last one especially.
You are
Don't say that's not good. We just lost Steve.
No, it's okay. I can't do it from the lobby. Stevie, I'm back.
Stephen is in the lobby, but now he's back. Okay, so Stephen, please
hit me with a shot. Okay, I'm waiting for an image to comment on. There we go. Yes. Well, not only do we as book dealers rent trucks, keep Florida living, and thank you, U-Haul, for the great deal you gave us, but we also are involved in mosquito control. So I give you my truck. I tipped the guy $10 when I handed the truck back, because I said I didn't mean to bring it back to you like this, but we do control the mosquito population on the way to the book fair. That's living proof of it. You should see the grill.
Yeah, I was the exact same.
If I was into fly fishing, it might be good, but So let's go to the next image. Okay, so if you have seen pictures of my warehouse like about 2 months ago when it was finally finished and everything was up and neat, this is what it looks like as of the other day, because I made a mistake thinking that I thought I'd be able to replace my shelving. The moral and the message that I learned is do not use collapsible bookshelves as the permanent fixtures in your warehouse, because when you do shows, you're going to have to strip them down. If you can picture this, it was a really neat looking thing with all kinds of bookcases going up and down the rows. Yeah. When I come back, I'm changing to, well, back, here I am. When I get back to work tomorrow, we're going to Home Depot and Walmart to see which way per square foot I can do the best job. I'm going to use these folding bookcases that you see in the left corner, just in a corner for storage. So when we do a book show, there's probably, I do anyway, this year we got away with about 78 boxes instead of 100. And now all these boxes have to be deboxed, reshelved, and all that other stuff. So even though, you know, the fair is over, the fair is not over until the last fat book goes on the shelf. And if, you know, all right, that was just kind of a fun shot. I was so happy to see the truck empty. But if we move on to another shot, we might see what that was like. That's Nick. He's the best friend to my fourth and fifth vertebrae that I've ever met, because we don't deal in miniature books. But if you were looking at it, that's what everything that is coming back from the book fair. It's a lot of work. It's not a complaint. It's a labor of love. But be aware, you know, there's a lot to doing a book fair besides just going into the booth and selling books. Next shot. That was where it started. Next time I'm going to shoot my pictures from the end to the back so we get them chronologically.
It's a nice one.
Thank God for Cube Smart, because they gave me a break. Now, that's kind of what it looked like when it started. The boxes in the aisles were the first shots that I took getting ready for, you know, the book fair. Those collapsible bookshelves will probably be replaced with steel shelvings. And I might do a conservation effort, and the conservation is on fundage. If I put up 2 metal shelves, I can then run 4-foot boards between them and not have to erect the structure. And this time, what else I learned for better use of the space is, instead of using an 8-inch board, I'm going to use a 12-inch board, so I can go in, you know, 4 edge to 4 edge, and double stack my aisles. Space is
so
always.
Even after all these years in the book business, you're continuing to learn things.
Absolutely, Alan. It's a process from the ridiculous to the sublime. We're always learning something new. You know, I'm still trying to catch up from that period of 1498 to 1909, but you know.
So Jane Kahn had wrote us a book here. But we appreciate her comments. I know that when we were doing during the live broadcast, or shortly after the live broadcast, we were looking at some 1920s and 1930s magazines, and Jane had a particular interest in them, but she had not caught the name of the bookseller. It turned out it was William Crescent, who's the president of the Florida Antiquarian Booksellers Association, and so I was able to give her that information. Evidently, she was able to make the connection and was able to get the book she selected. So we're glad to hear that, Jane, that you were able to do that, and we're glad that we were able to be part of that whole process. So, gentlemen, it's only 358 days. What are you going to do in this time between now and then?
Pray that I win the lottery.
Take a nap?
Take a nap, yeah.
Take a nap. That certainly seems like a possibility of
actually, you know, one thing I'm going to do a bit, I'm a member of the Florida Bibliographical Society, and I think Alan or one of us should remember to get somebody from them on the show, because next year, in addition to our show, there is a national tour, if you will, of members from bibliographic societies from around the country. The Overview organization does it every year, a tour. I think a couple of years ago it was Kansas City, then New York. I believe they've done London, whatever. And they are coming. Alan, do you know more about that? There's
yes, they are. They have quite an itinerary planned in the Tampa Bay area, and I know that they have plans to visit some of the university libraries and some of the other libraries and the municipal libraries in the area. They also have plans to go to the St. Petersburg has turned into a city of museums, and they have plans to go to
Dolly Museum,
some of the museums, and and apparently a very full schedule. Plus, there are rumors that not really even rumors, there are plans afoot, though they're not settled yet, but there are plans afoot for the Rare Book School to come and do something here during the week before the Florida Antiquarian Book Fair. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if members of the and I get it wrong. Maybe you know the official name of the organization. I think it spells cabs, and it's not the Colorado. But anyway, it's the national.
I'm trying to see if I have something from them on my desk here, but I don't think I do.
National Bibliophile Society.
It's NT. Yeah, we'll get it together,
and we'll get the actual name and mention that. But yes, they are planning to come next year, and in the next few weeks we will have someone from the Florida Bibliophile Society on the program as well. So we're looking forward to that. I think that'll be a wonderful thing in St. Petersburg. Not only for the organization itself, not only for the Florida organization, but also for the book dealers, because these are serious book people who are. So we're definitely looking forward to all that. We only have a few minutes left, and I know that Lindsay has some breaking news or some news that we have. That has some developments in the book world, and I just wanted to give him a few minutes before we close out to bring us up to date.
Well, thanks, Ellen, and to pick up on Jane Kahn's comment about connecting by way of our broadcast. If you weren't around last weekend, the Rare Book Cafe did a broadcast each of the 3 days of the book fair. We have reached over 2,000 viewers so far. Which is up from last year. I particularly was delighted to be joined by Amber Sheehan from Biblio.com, who joined us from her home in Asheville, North Carolina. She is the kind of person that you just sort of fall in love with first time you meet her. She's charming and bright and funny, and she made me look good. And so I'm hoping that we can get her back next year. But Jane was just one of the 2,000 people so far who have watched those 3 broadcasts. And it's to Alan's credit that he came up with the idea of doing live shows during the run of the book fair. And I particularly think that this year was a good run for the broadcast, because they gave a real sense, thanks to technology having evolved sufficiently. It was easy to walk around the book fair and get a sense of being in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, it worked well.
You could see the dealers, and you had a real idea of what goes on at one. And I think it can be a great educational tool. I know I'm planning to share them with the Tennessee Antiquarian Book Fair, which comes up in July, as a promotional tool in the next month or so. So that's one thing.
As far as attendance to the book fair, doing those live broadcasts is not going to do anything for our attendance on that given year for the book fair. But if our mission with the book fair, and particularly with the Rare Book Cafe, which we did these broadcasts under the mantle of the Rare Book Cafe, if our mission is to further the understanding of antiquarian books and collectible books, and understanding of the the whole endeavor, then I think this is time well spent in helping to do that. So,
overall, the reach of the book fair page on Facebook during the month run up to the week of the book fair was over 17,000. So we are reaching a lot of people who cannot attend, but want to be part of it. And that's exactly right, Alan. We're casting the net wider and bringing the book fair and the association to a larger audience wherever they may be. A couple of interesting news stories caught my eye that we have posted over on the Book Week Facebook page. And the ongoing saga of the Carnegie book theft from last year. Emily Hetzel, the wife and bookkeeper of John Schulman, the owner of Caliban Books in Pittsburgh, who stands accused of stealing over $8 million worth of books from the Carnegie in conspiracy with its rare bookroom curator. She has opened her own book selling site online. It's called It's called Common Crow Books. She has 150,000 rare and used titles, according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, although according to her website, it's 70,000. She was formerly the bookkeeper for Caliban Books, but has no idea about anything and has not been charged. And my sense of this announcement is, cue the entry of the divorce lawyers. Schulman and his co-defendant, Greg Priori, are still set for trial on June 24th. And here in South Carolina, we're just busting our buttons with pride because a retired Ohio nurse who started collecting comic books with a Zorro for 10 cents in 1958 has donated his entire 180,000 item collection to the University of South Carolina Library. 500 bankers boxes in 4 moving vans arrived a few weeks ago. Wow. Collection has a value of over $2.5 million. Gary Watson is what we call a completist in the trade. Once he started collecting seriously, he began going to shows and filling in the gaps to create complete runs of different comic series. And that's why he has 180,000 of them. They filled his house, his garage, and 3 storage units. And after he retired, he wanted to make sure that they were kept somewhere. He knew if he sold them, the collection would be broken up. He pitched it to a number of academic institutions because they're now beginning to offer courses in comic books, analyzing story development, character development, artwork, all the art that goes into that unique form of American entertainment. And so having a big collection to study is a valuable thing. Gary Watson, the nurse in Ohio, has never been to Columbia, had no connection to the library, but after he got some turndowns from other schools, a friend posted a notice on an academic site, and the University of South Carolina contacted him. They went up to Columbus. They were dazzled by what they saw. They made him an offer. And so now the 500 bankers boxes are in the Thomas Chambers Library in Columbia, where they've gone through about 100. They estimate it'll take years and years to catalog them all, but they will be preserved and studied, and that's a happy story.
Well, thank you for that one. That's a good way to end it. Thank you very much, Lindsay. I like that stuff.
And I love the lawyer line.
Well, anytime somebody splits off from a family business to go in on one's own and puts in a disclaimer about not being related to that guy, then you kind of know what's coming next.
All right, guys. Well,
That's not intended as a comment on the merits of the case, but I think you can read into her comments whatever you will.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I guess what do you guys have planned? I am in the warehouse tomorrow till Friday. I absolutely have to finish it, or I'm going to get stuck with the first month's real rent on that warehouse. The free month is over, so I know what I'm doing this week. Building and building.
Yep, I'm still unpacking from the bookstore. Hi, Alan. Thank you very much. A friend of mine just checked in. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, I'm going to continue back like everybody from the book fair. Now we pack up and we do it. Next thing we do is we unpack it.
Sometime
getting ready
in June,
for next year.
Sometime in June, we're heading up to the farm, and on the way up, we're going to go up to the west coast of Florida. I think you saw. I was talking to somebody in the booth about looking at 3,500 books in her house, and she showed us pictures of the house, and the only way I can describe the house is it looks like the picture of Alan Ahern's house on the back of collected books. She said, somebody with a library should build the house. It was beautiful bookcases.